would like to open up the floor for questions. And will you please go to the microphone, and Tim and Trey are going to help me to make sure that we see everyone, and please state your name, your church, name, church, clergy, and laity or equalization. Do we have questions? Microphone number 3.
Jonathan Tullis, formerly of the Seashore District clergy, Pleasant Hill and Salem, about to be in the Brookhaven District at Adams and Sweetwater. Not really sure who this question should be directed to, so I'll trust y'all to make the best decision. But how will the process of drawing up the districts work, and how large do we anticipate the districts being? And I say that because I know our DSs work very hard. Some of our districts currently are very large, so that's a concern that I have, and I'd just like to know more about that process.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to let Reverend Dr. Cook to determine who will answer the questions. And so, Dr. Cook?
Well, I'll start off with answering that question, and if any of the team members care to add to this answer, feel free to do so. But as it relates to this work, we've already looked at possibilities, and you have experiment already at work with several district superintendents, as it has already been stated, who are virtually going through this right now as it relates to the number of districts. If I understood your question correctly, you asked specifically about the number of churches. Is that correct? The
Geography and or the number of churches.
Say that again.
Mainly the geography, but number of churches anticipated would be helpful too.
Roughly 100 churches, roundabout number, but don't hold me to that. And then secondly, travel time could be 2 hours, around that number. All right, thank you.
Okay. Microphone number 3.
Daniel Taylor, Nugent and Gateway charges in the Seashore District. To be a little bit more specific, but in the same thought process, we are talking about huge geographic districts. There's a lot going on with our DSs. What support systems are we planning on putting in place to help them make their life a little bit easier, just from the human side of it? And then also, do we know yet if we're going to be keeping the same district superintendents, or is that them being moved around on the table as well?
Well, during our presentation, due to the fact that I'm rotating off the cabinet, we currently have, we had 8 district superintendents. Now we have 7 that would be at work, and that would match up with the number that we have lifted up. And I'm going to give you a good example of how this will work. When I was serving as East Jackson, West Jackson District Superintendent, I depended heavily upon my district leadership team to help plan things accordingly as it relates to meeting with people within the district, laity and clergy. I didn't do that alone. When there were times to call upon individuals such as elders and other pastors to assist in certain areas, instead of me going, sometimes they would go. So you have to think in these times wisely. And there are also opportunities that we have as relate to Zoom meetings. And sometimes those are suffice to help meet the needs of a particular district. Anyone from the team want to add to that? All right, thank you. Are there other, I'm not trying to take the bishop position. I was about to say, are there other questions?
Microphone number 3. Please say your name and church, clergy, lay.
Rusty Keene, Tupelo First lead pastor and former district superintendent of the Meridian District and the Greenwood District. First of all, I give great thanks for the work that you have done. I have walked alongside these colleagues in ministry for 7 years, and I know greatly of the work, the challenges, and the rewards of being one of our district superintendents. My concern is that we are no longer charged with just being an administrative district superintendent, but we are called to be the chief missional strategist of our districts. As chief missional strategist, we are called to provide leadership in the district so that the church can look beyond what it's currently doing and look with missional eyes at what it could be. I will support the recommendation if that is the work of if that is the will of the body. But I'm concerned that chief missional strategists will not have the time to be able to lead alongside their district leadership teams to provide that missional leadership for the church. In addition to that, I could not help but notice in our report that we received from David Stott's office that last year, in 2022, after we had moved to fewer district superintendents covering some of our areas, our collection rate went down on conference mission chairs and district mission chairs. That is concerning to me. I'm a relational person. Most of you who know me know that. I think there's power in the connection between the local church and the superintendent. And I lift that up for the body to consider, Stephen, and I would love to hear your responses for how we may be able to continue and keep those relationships alive, because I think if we don't have that, we might see negative results down the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rusty. I'm going to ask Paulette Buford James, District Superintendent of Starkville District, as well as Greenwood, and also a former District Superintendent, Mike Hicks, to share at this time. And then, if time remains, I'll pick it back to address what you have lifted up, Rusty.
Rusty, thank you for your comments and your concerns. As we look at the districts now, there are 11 districts and 8 district superintendents, soon will be 7. And as we have it today, that each district superintendent are serving a whole district and part of a district with 11. But when we are able to go to 7, we will have 1 district apiece. Right now, we have 2 DOT teams, district leadership teams. We have 2 DCOM teams. We have 2 of everything. So once it's 7 districts and 7 district superintendents, we're able to have more relational with the individuals. And right now, I am meeting at Greenwood every Tuesday and meeting with them. And so we're doing what we can do right now to develop relationships, but I do believe that once we're able to go to 7 districts, we're able to connect and build relationships stronger, and where we won't have 2 of everything, we have 1, and we'll be able to grow and be closer. And also, as you said, as chief missional strategist, as we go to 7, we are called to empower the people to lead missionally and in ministry. And I think that's part of building relationship as well. And that will strengthen the church.
I think that's a good concern that you raised, Rusty. And what we also have discussed in our time and looked at some other models and other annual conferences that made this adjustment. And some of them have what they call a resource person in each district. It could be a lay person, we're not talking about full-time person, but somebody who may be a clergy who can have a little extra time to serve, or a lay person who would also be that resource person who could go and spend time in local churches to help people develop their mission and their ministry. and to continue to build those relationships with them. And so that's something that we're considering and we're thinking about here as we work ahead. That could be a volunteer person, it could be a minimally paid person, but that is under consideration as well, because we know that, yes, time constraints make it difficult for district superintendents, I know that, be everywhere. You can't be everywhere at the same time, but we can better use that, and also better use some of our clergy and laity from our district leadership teams to be able to represent us in places and extend that reach into every local church as well.
Reverend Cook, do you want to answer? Because I know you said you would let the team and then you would come back. Do you want to answer, or we want to just take some more questions?
The only thing I want to add, and I thank Paulette and Mike for sharing their thoughts, but you have the opportunity within any given district to have what we formally refer to as cluster. And you can have individuals over those clusters. You can call them nowadays regional coordinators, or you may use another name so that you can employ those individuals to help you out to be relational within your district.
Okay. Thank you, Pastor. Microphone, I recognize microphone 1. He just turned it around. Microphone 1.
Marcus Galt, clergy, Bentley Chapel, Hattiesburg District. As we consider that, God creating us to live in community and to be a connectional church, I guess my concern, as I'm hearing, is that I think we may be expecting too much of our district superintendents because we're not holding ourselves up to a standard of being in community that would support the work of a district superintendent. There's mention of district leadership teams, but I would venture to argue that many in our churches don't understand what a district leadership team is and does and how they could support the district superintendent. So my first question is, could you better help those of us who may not understand that the district superintendent is, shall I say, an office more than a person? And secondly, what can we as churches do to better support our pastors, who are our first pastor, even as the district superintendents are our pastors' pastors? And maybe we wouldn't need district superintendents, we wouldn't strain them so if we were better with our pastors, if that makes sense what I'm arguing. Can we as churches do better to make life better for our district superintendents?
Thank you for lifting that up as it relates to district superintendents. The district superintendents, they do a lot of work. And let me break it down to you in this manner. From a supervisory perspective to working with personnel issues and programming issues to help move things forward instead of things being bogged down. When you consider a district leadership team, as I previously mentioned, the district leadership team has an awesome opportunity to do things from a loving, learning, and leading perspective. Going back to the example of the East Jackson, West Jackson district leadership team, they had the awesome opportunity to help plan leadership training, lay servant ministry school, to also do things as it relates to receptions and other things within the district. They are very important to help move things forward. And I'm going to ask anyone else from our district realignment task force, and Emily is coming forth to share out of the depths of her heart.
Thank you. I wanted to share one piece because I do think there is a shift in expectations. Reverend Sandra Brown talked in the memorial service in her sermon about having those spectacles of an eternal perspective. And I think for us, this is a season where we are called to make these changes and to focus together on how we can best make disciples for the transformation of the world. And I think that so much of our energy, let's be real. I know our bishop talks about the D word, disaffiliation. our district superintendents in the same period, that yes, there's been some declines in the giving in districts. There's been some of these challenges. They've been spending a lot of time putting out fires, supporting pastors that are going through difficult situations in their local congregations. And we're not through that storm yet, but let's hope that we're making it through that to where that will begin to clear and less energy will need to be spent on those things. And those of us that are remaining and staying in this together, we can find a way through this. I'm very hopeful about that. And I think that it is going to take us praying, supporting, offering our gifts to make this work. But I think our changing our expectations and giving it that heavenly perspective will help us to do that as well.
Are there any more questions from the body? Okay. I see 1, 2, there's a young lady, okay, I would like to call on microphone 6, and then I will call on the 2 and 1. So let's take microphone 6 first, and then I'll go to microphone 1 and microphone 2. And Scott, are you standing at a microphone? 5, all right, good questions. Number 6.
Okay. I'm Linda Dixon in the Hattiesburg/Brookhaven district. And my question is...
Are you clergy or lay?
Oh, I am clergy.
Thank you.
Yes. My question is, what is the duration of this plan? And is there any more planning around this for better ways for our district superintendents to have more work, not more work, I'm sorry. But to have less work, and we'll get back to a sharing plan.
Well, I think the district superintendents, if all of them could stand, they would say they are already at work with doing a sharing plan. Amen. But this, as it relates to what we're asking this conference to consider from a recommendation standpoint, it would take probably 6 to 12 months for us to implement this. So even though it may be approved today, it won't start tomorrow. We need some time to work out some sensitive issues as it relates to some things, and then hopefully we will, in consultation with the cabinet, our bishop, and a few of these team members that are up here, we will have a great plan moving forward for us to live out as a Mississippi Annual Conference.
Microphone 1, 2, and 5. 1.
Okay, I thought it was 2. Thank you. Maxine Bolden, clergy, West Jackson District. Thank you for what you just said, Dr. Cook. My concern is, while it may take 12 months for this to take place, if we agree with the prayer that Bishop has been praying and speaking that we're going to grow in numbers, grow financially, when we begin to grow, after we get past and as we continue to work through disaffiliation, is there any vision towards what happens then? Because then you'll be in the same boat with all these people to serve, with overwhelmed district superintendents, and the reality that we'll have to come back to this conversation.
That is a good question, Maxine. Thank you for lifting it up. As was stated earlier, we're looking at the times in which we live in. We're looking at the context that is before us as a people. And we're looking at being good stewards with what God has entrusted us. So as far as that goes, we think that we're laying out as a team the best option for us to live out in the here and now. If it comes, and I hope that it does, based upon what you just lifted up, your concern about growing, then let us address that at the appropriate time. But in this season in which we live in, we think that this is the best way forward for us to live in for such a time as this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Microphone 2.
David Meadows, pastor at Jasper Circuit Circle District. As we're looking at this, and there's an elephant in the room we hadn't talked about, which I think is important with what's happening in our conference, is how much are we going to save and be good stewards of the money we have? Because we've got less coming in. 7 districts would mean 7 DSs instead of 8. Is there a monetary savings that can help us use that in other ministries in the church?
Thank you for your question. Mike Hicks is going to address that question. Thank you.
I will say that as we begin this work together, that was not a consideration that we worked from the beginning, and we don't want to make a promise that will change, and we want to realize that what we're trying to do is best realign the resources that we have to better meet the needs of the conference as it is becoming configured into our future. And we will live into that, and we will see how the future unfolds. But I don't want to stand here and tell you that we're going to save money, because we don't know that at this time. We don't want to proceed and sell this as that kind of idea. What we want to tell you is that we are discerning the best way to deploy the resources and use the resources. I'm not talking about just financial, but people resources into our work and our ministry into the future.
Microphone 5.
Bishop Scott Wright, formerly the pastor of St. John's, formerly United Methodist Church, now Greenwood First. To me, I'm torn. I've been standing and thinking and praying about what to say. I'm torn because I do believe it is a stewardship issue. You know, we cannot, I believe we cannot lose 22% of our church and not do something different. Another concern I have is the demand on our district superintendents. For example, running the roads. I know a lot of our district superintendents. I know how they drive. God have mercy. And I also know of the connection. I know some of the past churches that I've pastored, and trying to continue to show the benefit of our connection with the local church to our conference. And I've heard many times as a pastor, what has the conference done for us? And I see some of that separation widening as a result of this. I don't really know what the answer is. I just felt like in my heart I had to say. I do know it's a stewardship issue. I do know we need to do something different. But I think we should be cautious. And I'm not trying to armchair quarterback, because I know you all have done a great and diligent work, and I'm thankful for your work.
Okay. Thank you. I was about to say, Scott, do you have a specific question, or that was just basically a comment?
Just a comment.
Okay.
Bishop.
Okay. No problems. Dr. Cook?
I would like to just speak to what Scott has lifted up. And in our travel throughout the conference and even beyond the conference line, I think the way that we approach this work, or the way that I approach this work, to be more specific about it, that when we travel, we should look at that as times of being therapeutic. And for me, when I travel within the district, driving from Jackson to Greenwood, when I was covering Greenwood, I saw it as therapeutic time. When dealing with so many disaffiliation in the East Jackson, West Jackson district, I said, I'm not going to do all that by myself. I asked for help. I didn't mind asking for help. And I asked one of the former district superintendent, Reverend Mike Hicks, to assist with some heavy lifting, because it was some heavy lifting. And all I'm trying to convey is this, that when we're called upon to do this work as district superintendents, we shouldn't take the mentality that we're called to do it by ourselves. We need to think smart, we need to think wise, because God has gifted us in that manner. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you. We still have more time for questions, and these are very good questions, and I want you to ask the questions. This is the opportunity to do it. So I would like to call on Andy at microphone 5, and then microphone 3, and then microphone 4.
Andy Stoddard, St. Matthew's United Methodist Church, East Jackson District. I just really want to piggyback on something Scott said, and I was talking with one of my delegates during this conversation about how I've seen things change just in my time in ministry. The role of the district superintendent, what they did, what my expectations were from them, what they expected from me has evolved throughout the years, as it should be. And I think it'd be helpful. I love the ideas. I think it's a great idea. As I've heard say, when you see changes, you have to be creative. And we Methodists are known for our creativity. It's really what our spiritual gift is. You know, we're good at that. Y'all were supposed to laugh at that. Sorry, that landed well. But I do think if there's a way we could baptize or create a method. I know one of the things that I've heard concern about the district superintendents, their travel, their work, their things. So much of the pastoral care that I received early in my ministry from the DSs, I frankly now receive from my brothers and sisters, my colleagues. And I think that's been healthy. It's created additional bonds of community between clergy brothers and sisters. And the best way to get somebody to do something, to not do something, is to require it. But I do think if there's a way we could push the connection downward to our fellow brothers and sisters, both clergy and lay, and recover what that looked like. So I think it's a great idea to move forward with, but I would encourage the team to be thinking creatively about how we push that connection downward to the local church, which does strengthen our conference, but frankly, more importantly, strengthens our missional ability and our relationships.
Microphone 3 and then 4. Thank you, Andy.
Leslie Horton, Brookhaven District to lay. I'm kind of building off of what Andy said, but I want to look at it from a clergy spouse perspective. When we first came back from seminary, there were very strong support at the district level for clergy spouses. I don't feel that as much now, and I don't think the DSs used to be a pastor to the pastor's family, and I don't see that as much now. I wish there could be some way that that could be rebuilt.
Thank you. Microphone 4 and then microphone 1.
Yeah. Bruce Case, St. Luke's United Methodist, West Jackson District. To the task force, thank you for your thoughtful work. And
Clergy or laity, we need all of this information. Did you say clergy?
Pastor St. Luke's.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Well,
sorry.
pastors.
That's all right. That's all right.
Sorry.
Appreciate your work. And really along the same lines as what Andy was saying, did the task force take a look at the job description? Because inevitably, 7 DSs in this state, I mean, the workload is expanding, and I know there are different ways to do it, but did you look at the actual job description and look at that and how this would affect that?
Yes, Bruce, we did take that under consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have microphone 1, 2, 5, and 3. Microphone 1, 2, 5, and 3. Microphone 1.
Cindy Scurry, layperson at Crawford Street United Methodist Church in the West Jackson District. Reverend Cook, you said that this would make up about 100 churches per
I said roughly, and I
district?
said, yes, 100 churches.
Just as a point of reference.
And I said roughly.
Right,
And
okay.
I said, don't hold me to that.
I got both of those.
Yeah.
But just roughly, and I won't hold you to this either, how does that compare to what the numbers are now?
About the same.
Okay.
And we have some that have a little bit more, but roughly about the same.
Microphone 2, 5, and 3.
Thank you, Bishop Lewis. I'm Pastor Ella Holmes Hines with the Seashore District, the pastor of Alina C. Jones, Bay St. Louis, Holmes Chapel, Pearlington. What I hear often as I'm beginning my 4th year is, I want to see my district superintendent. I try to encourage them that under the direction of the superintendent, I am passing on what I have been given. That still does not appease. In the Seashore, I know that our superintendent worked tirelessly. Yeah, I heard you, Larry. And we thank him for what he's doing, because the coast is not like any other community. And you can take that to the bank. I know that because I'm a 25-year councilwoman also. And in that, I know that they are tired as we are tired too, but with the strength of Jesus, we are progressing. In 3 years, and I'm only 4 years out, I have had over 20 funerals. And I say that in that we have a community of people